special edition of Small Jobs. In this edition, we're going to review the Reaper Bones miniature that we picked up at Origins. We're going to try some modeling techniques, little basic things on cleanup, that sort of thing. Plus we're going to try several painting techniques on here to see if it really does hold up to the claims that Reaper says it does. So let's take a look at cleaning up maybe some of this flash. So first off, it appears that the miniature does have quite a bit of detail for a plastic miniature. Very little to clean up, so that's actually nice. I do see a couple of little bits of flashing and a couple little specks of plastic out of place, so we'll look at cleaning those up. Normally for a metal miniature I would use a file to do some of the line cleanup. I'm not expecting the file to work, but I'm going to give it a try. Doesn't look like we're getting so it doesn't look like the file is doing a real good job of cleaning up the flashing. Not surprising since it is a flexible polymer. So I'm going to try an X-Acto knife. I'm guessing that'll probably work. Again, be very careful when using an X-Acto knife because they are razor sharp. So a little nick at the top of the finger. Yeah, okay. The X-Acto knife is the way to go. Real clean, real fast. Alright, so we're going to get on with the painting techniques. As is typical for miniature painters, there's probably three techniques that we should check out. We should check out washing, basing, and maybe dry brushing. So as far as basing goes, we're going to try 4 different paints on that. As far as washing, we're going to try an ink wash, a paint wash, and then one of those pre-bottled washes. And since they do say that I can do this right out of the box, we're going to try it that way. If it doesn't work out, we're going to try some of the other things that I've found on the Reaper forum. So let's start with our out-of-the-bottle wash. So this is Reaper's black wash. We're going to just take this right straight out of the bottle. Might add a little water because that's a technique I normally follow anyway. So that's the Reaper wash. So dish 2, do a little bit of Reaper True Blue, and then for the last one, there it is, I'm just going to do a spot of blue ink. Going with blue to give us that ethereal feel of a ghost. So I'm going to add water to each so we get washes. First we're going to start out with the Reaper bottled wash. As expected, I'm starting to see some beading because the wash is more watery. Water and plastic don't usually mix, so I'm seeing a little bit of that. Alright, now I'm going to try with the watered down Reaper True Blue wash. And incidentally, I'm seeing more of the water or the wash beading up on the plastic. So again, as expected, a water-based wash, not really good. Let's try the ink wash. There's considerably more water here. And I might as well just be... The ink wash is just beading up completely. It's not staying in any of the crevices. It doesn't do what it needs to do. So, as far as the wash test goes, directly out of the package, not really. The water content of washes prevents it from actually staying where you want it. So, I'm going to write that off as a no for a wash, but let's try the actual paints. In Reaper, this should work perfectly. We're going to try four different paint types. We're going to try Reaper Master Series True Blue. We're also going to try their high density blue pigment, in this case their ice blue. We're going to try Vallejo Magic Blue and P3 Signar Blue Highlight. See how each one reacts to the plastic. Okay, since I've already got the P3 Signar Blue Highlight, I'm going to try that. Clean my brush a little bit, trying it straight, full paint consistency. So far with the P3, it goes on pretty well. I'm seeing some of the underlying paint, or the underlying plastic. I'm going to try that, thinning it out a little bit, because we know not to put paints directly on at full intensity. So I've added just a little bit of water. And as soon as you add water, it's starting to pool up. So P3, full density, works fine. With water, not so much. Alright, so the Reaper True Blue is next. Straight out of the bottle. As advertised, it's got a good coverage. It doesn't pool up on the plastic at all. Nice opacity. Gonna try with a little bit of water. Yeah, we're still getting some pooling. So far, don't add water to the paint. Just use it straight out of the bottle. Alright, next is the high density ice blue. Gonna go a little higher. Also has very nice coverage, as advertised. Try with a little water. Oh, even with a little water, the high density paint has still a little bit of bite to it. So that might be an approach, is to use the high density paint. And finally, we're going to try the Vallejo Magic Blue. At full strength, it goes on nicely as well. Also has some nice opacity. Let's try with some water. And not at all. So it appears that of the 3 different brands and 4 different types of paint that we've used, straight out of the bottle works as Reaper has suggested. The Reaper brand paints have a better opacity, and the high density paint actually will take some degree of water. So at this point, I'm going to suggest, if you're just going to base coat straight out of the package, your best bet's probably the Reaper high density paints. One of the things we discussed was playing around with maybe some additives, so that if we wanted the paint to look a little more translucent, we could add an extender or something like that. At this point, I kind of feel that that's not the same kind of market that Reaper's going for. I think Reaper's intent is to basically just get your miniatures painted and on the table as fast as possible. Don't think they're going to do a lot of like competition painting for the plastics. I could be wrong, but at this point we're not really going to address some of the extenders or slow dry or any of that kind of stuff. We're just going to go pretty much what you can get right out of the bottle. The third technique we're going to look at is dry brushing. Since the Bones miniatures come directly out of the package white, For some people, that might be an appropriate way to quickly get their models to the tabletop. So let's try some dry brushing. And it looks like it actually does take up the paint pretty nicely. Let's try some area with a little bit more detail. So yeah, it's taken the color nicely. Let's see if we can rub any of that off. No, that looks good. So dry brushing works well. So one thing I've noticed is as the paint's been drying, it has a different sheen to it than normally I would expect from just painting it directly over a primer. The P3 and Vallejo actually have kind of a glossy sheen to them, whereas the Reaper paint is fairly matte. So that's something else to consider. Interesting turn of events there. I would like to see if I can get the washes to work. So in reading Reaper forum, there were a couple of suggestions. One is to go ahead and wash the miniature out of the package with some dish detergent. That's usually good practice for miniatures anyway. So I'd like to try that, see if that works, and if it does, great. If not, the next step would be another recommendation of using the tester's dull coat. I've used that in the past to save my work. Somebody on the forum suggested we use it to kind of prime the miniature without actually using primer. So we're going to try those two techniques. I'm going to go off to wash this. Okay, I'm back from washing the miniature. I used a little bit of dishwashing detergent and a toothbrush and cleaned up the miniature. In the process, I removed some of the paint. Interesting side note, the Reaper paints came off very easily with a scrub brush and some soap. However, the P3 and the Vallejo, as you can see, have kind of stuck with the plastic. As a matter of fact, it looks like the Vallejo almost stained the plastic, or the polymer of the miniature. So kind of an interesting side note. I guess if you're planning on putting your miniatures underwater, the Vallejo may hold up better. But I don't expect that's what you're going to be doing. Anyway, so now we've cleaned it up. It's dry. I'd like to try doing our washes again. So I'm bringing back my little palette of washes. We're going to try the three different types of washes again. This is our out-of-the-bottle wash, a wash made with the regular bottled paint, and an ink wash. So let's try all three of those again on a clean miniature. First up, the bottled wash. I'm seeing a little bit better adhesion, but it's still pulling up in spots, not behaving as well as I'd like it to. Now on to the bottled paint. This is the Reaper True Blue. It's thinned down to a wash consistency. Again, I'm seeing a little better adhesion, but still not the performance you would expect from a wash. And finally, onto our ink wash. Almost no effect at all there. It immediately pulls up into the little droplets. So even washed with the manufacturing greases removed, the manufacturing oils removed, it's still not behaving nicely with water-based washes. So based on the performance of the water-based washes, not looking good. Bottom line is not real easy to paint a wash onto plastic directly. The next thing we're going to try is use some tester's dull coat. See if we can kind of pre-seal the plastic. Maybe that'll let us get a wash onto the plastic. So let me grab my bottle of testers, run out to the garage. Alright, I've just got a coat of Tester's Dull Coat on the miniature, and we'll see if we can get a wash to stick to this. My guess is probably. As I've said in the past, I've kind of used the Tester's Dull Coat as kind of like a save cheat. So it usually takes paint pretty well. So we're going to go back to our three washes here. So here's our canned wash. And it's behaving just like a wash should behave. So it's sitting in the crevices nicely. So that was our bottled wash, also Reaper manufactured. Nicely done. Here's the Reaper paint, the True Blue thinned with some water. It's going on much nicer as well. We're seeing a little bit of pooling, but not as much as we had before. So we've got an improvement by putting the Tester's Dull Coat on. Alright. Now we're going to go with the ink wash. And interestingly, because there is so much water in the ink, we're getting some pooling still. But at least the color seems to be adhering to the Tester's Dull Coat. So we're getting kind of an interesting staining effect from the ink wash. So it's an improvement. Do I think it's necessary? Probably not. As I said, that's really if you wanted to do a wash ahead of time. I think your best bet for these is to really just go ahead and base coat with a full paint as you would with a regular miniature. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Interesting note, when we went to go spray it with the Tester's Dull Coat, because the miniature is so lightweight, it kept falling over every time we'd hit it with the spray. So might be a good idea to use one of your handy little sticky bases to give it something to stand up on. Or maybe glue it to a piece of wood or something so that when you spray it, it doesn't fall over, because they are pretty lightweight. It has retained its flexibility after painting, so that's good. And that's what it looks like after a Tester's Dull Coat. Alright, now that we've tried the various techniques on it, let's get this thing painted. I'm going to pretty much use the same colors that we've been using all along. But yeah, let's finish it up. Since we've decided that the ice blue high density paint works, I'm going to start with that, get the whole miniature painted. For ease of painting, I'm going to attach it to my handy dandy little base. Again, this is just a bottle top with a bit of poster putty. Alright, that's a very fast paint job. Took me just over about a half an hour. I did cheat with a lot of dry brushing, but as far as getting a miniature from out of the box and onto the table ready to play, that's not bad. So far, I'm digging it. I kind of like the miniature, the Bones line. One thing I did notice that as I was painting, since it is a very flexible miniature, chasing it around with a brush tends to be kind of tricky. But you just can't beat it for price, high quality of detail, and the ability to get the paint on it pretty much out of the box, particularly if you're using the Reaper series paints. So to sum up, the new Reaper Bones are inexpensive, easy to paint, particularly with the Reaper line of paints, specifically even better with their high definition paints, and are a great addition to your tabletop. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Small Jobs, special edition, and we look forward to talking to you guys in the near future. Thanks for coming by.